Welcome to Sound Journeys, only on Sound of the Deep Radio, where you explore different musical cultures and genres from around the world, revealing the fascinating nuances of different musical traditions. Hello, our dear listeners. In today's show, Sound Journeys, we will talk about Tibet and Tibetan music. Everyone is probably wondering what Tibet is and why we chose this particular topic for today. Let's start with the fact that this country has very big mountains and beautiful places. So, without waiting for anything, let's go to their geographical location and history, which is this. Historical Tibet includes not only the Tibet Autonomous Region, but also other sacred territories in China, Qinghai Province, Western Sichuan. Also, historical Tibet occupies the northern areas of Nepal, the Indian states of Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, the Kashmir region of Ladakh, and the state of Bhutan. All these areas belong to the sphere of Tibetan cultural influence in ancient times and form a single historical entity. Despite the ethnic and cultural diversity, the communities that lived here are still united by Tibetan Buddhism, the Tibetan language, which is used as a lingua franca, and other cultural traits. This fact has become a basis for some states to make territorial claims. For example, the People's Republic of China, which controls Tibet, wants to take over from India the territory of Arunachal Pradesh, which is called Southern Tibet and has long belonged to the Tibetan state. Historical Tibet almost coincides with the Tibetan Plateau, so most of Tibet is covered by mountains. In the north, Tibet is separated from East Turkestan by the Kunlun, in the south from the Indian subcontinent by the Himalayas, and in the west by the Karakoram. The area covers about 3.1 million square km and is on average 3,660 m above sea level. The highest peak is Jomolungma, Everest, which also belongs to Nepal. Many great rivers begin in the territory of Tibet, which continue to flow through the inhabited territories of other nations and are known to the world by the names given by the inhabitants of those countries, and not by their names in the Tibetan language. These are Brahmaputra, Yellow River, Yangtze, Indus, Mekong. The region borders Nepal, Bhutan, Indian states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. China is bordered by China's historical regions East Turkestan, North, Heshur Corridor, Northeast, Historic China, East, Yunnan, Southeast. We learned a little about the geographical location of Tibet, and we can already imagine where this wonderful place is located. And if you're still wondering where it is, turn on the map and take a look. You won't regret it if you check the images. Let's start talking about their music and what makes it so special, and what people admire about her. So what is Tibetan music? You are probably asking yourself. Let me introduce it with a few examples, and then we will connect with the history of Tibetan music. heard one old Tibetan music and another modern music. Which one did you like better? Without further ado, let's start talking about Tibetan music. At the beginning, let's talk about what Tibetan music is. In short, it is the music of Tibet reflects the cultural heritage of the Trans-Himalayan region centered in Tibet, but also known wherever ethnic Tibetan groups are found in Nepal, Bhutan, India, and further abroad. The religious music of Tibet reflects the profound influence of Tibetan Buddhism on the culture. The New Age singing bowl music, marketed in the West as Tibetan music, is of 1970s U.S. origin. Now let's talk about the history of Tibetan music as it has developed up to the present time. Western research into the history of Tibetan music has often focused more on religious than secular musics. It has been suggested that Tibetan religious music may have been strongly influenced by West Asian musics, including those of pre-Muslim Persia, and perhaps even of Byzantium. It has also been suggested that the landscape, and in particular, the resonances of caves, with their natural percussive sounding stones, exerted a formative influence on the overtone singing found in Tibetan Buddhist chant, and plausibly also in prehistoric shamanic invocations, which is produced by artful molding of the oral cavity. The assiduous adoption and evolution of Indian Buddhist traditions and culture in Tibet between the 12th and mid-20th centuries, in a period when Buddhism had disappeared from most of the Indian subcontinent, allowed the Tibetans to perpetuate musical practices from India that would otherwise have been lost, and to develop them in distinctive ways. Although Tibetan religious music can appear quite separate from the major traditions that emerged in Indian music, some of the musical instruments actually descend from Indian monastic and tantric Buddhist contexts, including, for example, the drilbiyu handbell, the characteristic hourglass drums called damaru, and the thighbone trumpet, kongling, as used in the practice of chod. The Lama Mani tradition, the telling of Buddhist parables through song, dates back to the 12th century. The songs were performed by wandering storytellers, who traveled from village to village, drawing on their own often humble origins to relate to people from all backgrounds. Vividly illustrated Buddhist Thangka paintings depicted the narrative and helped the audience understand what was essentially a teaching. Tibetan street songs were a traditional form of expression particularly popular as a means of political and other commentary in a country that was previously without newspapers or other means of mass communication. They provided political and social commentary and satire and are a good example of a bardic tradition, akin to that in medieval Europe or, more recently, the role calypsos played in the West Indies. As song lyrics in Tibet usually contain stanzas of 4 lines of 6 syllables each, the lyrics could be easily adapted to almost any melody. Secular Tibetan music has been promoted by organizations like the Dalai Lama's Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts. This organization specialized in the Lamo, an operatic style, before branching out into other styles, including dance music like Tozhe and Nangma. Nangma is especially popular in the karaoke bars of the urban center of Tibet, Lhasa. Another form of popular music is the classical gar style, which is performed at rituals and ceremonies. Lu are a type of songs that feature glottal vibrations and high pitches. There are also epic bards who sing of Tibet's national hero Geezer. Well, you learned about the history of Tibetan music, and we announce a musical break. During this time, prepare a cup of tea or coffee, get comfortable and listen to Tibetan music.
Boni
Now let's talk about Tibetan musical instruments and what they use. The list is really not small and some of the names are different, but I think with my description you will understand and imagine what they should look like. Shall we start? Wind. Dungchen or ragdung long horn made of copper and or brass. Dungkar or dungkar, literally white conch shell horn. Gilling sham. Kongling or kongdung trumpet made from a human leg bone, or sometimes wood. Lingbu flute made from bamboo, or occasionally wood. Dungrus glingbu flute made from the leg bone of an eagle or vulture. Kawang or gugsi Jew's harp. String. Dramine or skrosnyan long-necked, fretless, plucked lute with 6 or 7 strings. Piwang, 2-stringed vertical fiddle. Jayadmang, literally many strings, hammered dulcimer. Percussion. Chona or lakna, double-headed drum, which is usually held by a handle in the left hand and struck with a curved stick held in the right hand. Damaru, small hourglass drum. Diangro, drum used by Himalayan shamans. Drilbiyu, handbell. Garka, small decorative bell. Karna, gong. Na or runga, term referring to any drum or ritual percussion instrument. Nachen or rungachen, large double-headed drum, suspended in a frame and played with 2 sticks. Rungachung, small double-headed drum. Daman, a pair of kettle drums. Ralmo, also called bup kol, bup chow, or spub chow, hemispherical cymbals. Silnyan or silsnyan, flat cymbals. Tingsha or tingshags, small cymbals. Karangabisi yupa, set of 10 tuned gongs in a frame. So here are all the musical instruments of Tibet. Which one of my descriptions did you like best? Would you like to play one of them? Or maybe you already had to play? Let's talk about the next section, which we call popular and modern. Shall we begin? But before that we announce a musical break. During this time, prepare another cup of tea or coffee, get comfortable and listen to Tibetan music. And we will be waiting for you after the musical breaks. Tibetans have a very strong, clarification needed, popular music culture, and are also well represented in Chinese popular culture. Tibetan singers are particularly known for their strong vocal abilities, which many attribute to the high altitudes of the Tibetan plateau. Se Tendolma rose to fame in the 1960s for her music and dance suite, The East is Red. Kelsang Medak is a popular singer who combines the vocal traditions of Tibet with elements of Chinese, Indian, and Western pop. Purbar Gyal, Pubagia Or, was the 2006 winner of Jiao Hanener, Chinese, a Chinese reality talent show. In 2006, he starred in Sherwood Who's Prince of the Himalayas, an adaptation of Shakespeare's Hamlet, set in ancient Tibet and featuring an all-Tibetan cast. In the multi-ethnic provinces of Qinghai and Sichuan, whose Tibetan inhabitants are regarded as part of the Amdo cultural tradition, there is a very strong local scene, mostly exposed through videos on local buses. Amdo stars are among others Shur Ten, short for Sharab Tenzin, 6, and Yadong, who both have reached outside the borders of China with their music. The first fusion with Western music was Tibetan Bells, a 1972 release by Nancy Hennings and Henry Wolfe. The soundtrack to Kundan, by Philip Glass, has helped to popularize Tibetan music. Foreign styles of popular music have also had a major impact within the Tibetan diaspora, where Indian ghazal and filmi are very popular and American rock has produced the India-based Rings and Shonu. Within Tibet itself, among rock groups the bilingual Vajara, Tian Shu, Sextants are the oldest and most famous act. 7. Since the relaxation of some laws in the 1980s, Tibetan pop, popularized by the likes of Yadong, Tibet, Dayton, now living in the U.S., Jampat Sayering, Tibet, 3-member group AJIA, 4-member group Gao Yuan Hong, 5-member group Gao Yuan Feng, are well known. Dao Yuan Hong, in particular, has introduced elements of Tibetan language rapping into their singles. Alan Dawa Dolma is the first and currently only artist of Tibetan ethnicity to be active in both Chinese and Japanese music industry. Well, I want to thank everyone who listened and stayed all this time. And I hope you got new knowledge, and we will meet you at the same time I will wait for you. The show, Sound Journeys, was here. Have a nice day.